Saturday nights in the mid-'80s meant one thing for millions of people. 4 women around a kitchen table, a plate of cheesecake, and a laugh that could carry you through the whole week. The Golden Girls ran on NBC from September 14th, 1985 to May 9th, 1992, and left behind something television rarely manages, a show that feels just as alive today as it did the first time around. But even the most devoted fans missed things along the way. Here are 27 small details you missed in The Golden Girls.
Like oysters.
Oysters don't move.
Coco, they could dance. Who cares?
Detail 27, the theme song, was a 7-year-old hit before the show existed. The tune that opens every episode, "Thank You for Being a Friend," was not written for The Golden Girls. Singer-songwriter Andrew Gold had recorded and released it back in 1978, where it reached number 25 on the Billboard Hot 100. Gold later described it as just this little throwaway thing that took him about an hour to write. When the producers needed a theme for the new show, they first approached the publishers of Bette Midler's song Friends, but the licensing cost was too steep. Someone remembered Gold's song, licensed it, and hired a session singer named Cynthia Fee to record a shortened version for the opening credits. Fee completed the recording session in roughly 20 to 30 minutes. She went into the booth, sang the song twice, and the producers had what they needed. Gold's original recording ran nearly 4 minutes. Fee's TV version clocked in at just 41 seconds. Neither of them had any idea the song would become one of the most recognized theme songs in the history of American television.
You're right. I can't do it.
Mr. Ha-Ha?
Yes, Bobby?
Detail 26, Estelle Getty was younger than the actress playing her daughter. One of the most striking behind-the-scenes facts about the show involves the ages of its cast. Sophia Petrillo, the sharp-tongued Sicilian mother, was written to be 79 years old when the series began. The actress who played her, Estelle Getty, was 62 at the time of the premiere. That alone is a significant gap. But what makes it even more remarkable is that Getty was actually 14 months younger than Bea Arthur, who played her on-screen daughter, Dorothy. To bridge that roughly 17-year gap between Getty's real age and Sophia's character age, the makeup department spent approximately 45 minutes each filming day transforming her, using a white curly wig, heavy age makeup, thick framed glasses, and specific costuming choices. Getty nearly lost the role during auditions because the producers felt she looked too young. She persisted, and the rest is television history.
Just how you feel. I couldn't even think of another man for years after my husband died. And that's exactly why you have bad muscle tone.
Detail 25. Betty White was a natural brunette. The golden hair that made Rose Nylund's look so immediately recognizable was not Betty White's natural color. White was a brunette in real life and dyed her hair blonde for the role throughout the series. The show's writing made considerable fun of Rose's hair color over the years, with the other women regularly getting in jokes at its expense. What the writers didn't know, or perhaps did and found all the funnier, was that the jokes were landing on a woman whose hair was, at its root, nothing like the color being mocked. White was 63 years old when the Golden Girls began, making her actually older than her character Rose, who was written to be around 55 when the series started. Despite being one of the 2 oldest members of the cast alongside Bea Arthur, White played someone nearly a decade younger than herself with total conviction.
It does not belong in a cabinet. It belongs in a glass canister.
Detail 24. The kitchen had no oven. The kitchen at 6151 Richmond Street was the emotional center of the show. Every major revelation, every late-night confession, every slice of cheesecake happened at that table. But if you look carefully, you will notice something is missing. there is no oven. Where a stove and oven would normally be, the set had a cabinet with a piece of plywood serving as the door. The kitchen itself had been borrowed from a 1982 sitcom called It Takes Two, starring Helen Hunt, where it came fully equipped with an oven next to the refrigerator. When the set was reused for the Golden Girls, the oven was removed. Sophia's elaborate Sicilian recipes and Rose's peculiar Scandinavian dishes were described, referenced, and occasionally hinted at. But they were never actually cooked on camera in that kitchen because there was no functioning appliance to cook them on.
I killed her. I might just as well have shot her with a gun.
Honey, the woman was 83.
Detail 23. The wood grain on the set was painted on. While the kitchen had its missing oven, the living room had its own quiet deception. The set featured what appeared to be substantial textured woodwork throughout, a detail that contributed to the warm, comfortable feeling of the house. But if you look closely, none of that wood is actually carved or textured. It is all painted to look that way. The wood grain effect and the sense of depth in the surfaces were achieved entirely through paint. The show was filmed in standard definition, which made this easier to overlook on home television sets of the era. Most viewers simply accepted the warmth of the set without questioning the materials it was made of. It is a small detail that speaks to the work the production design team put into making that house feel real, even when it wasn't.
It's marathon.
Well, the first prize is $1,000, and I have to have that money. I'm in desperate need of money.
Detail 22. Rue McClanahan got to keep all of Blanche's wardrobe. Blanche Devereaux was famous for her elaborate, eye-catching outfits. Clothes that conveyed her personality as much as any line of dialogue ever did. Most of those clothes were custom made for the character by costume designer Judy Evans Steele, who used bright colors and bold prints to match the spirit of Miami and the spirit of Blanche. What viewers may not have known is that Rue McClanahan had a clause written into her contract that allowed her to keep every piece of clothing she wore on camera as Blanche. By the time the show ended its 7-season run, McClanahan reportedly had 13 closets full of the designer pieces. It was a practical arrangement for an actress who was playing a character considerably more glamorous than the average television wardrobe would suggest, and a windfall that anyone who has spent time admiring Blanche's outfits might well envy.
I dreamt that you and Stan were in bed together. Isn't that silly?
Detail 21. B. Arthur wore clip-on earrings. Dorothy's Bornak was famous for her large, bold earrings, the kind of statement jewelry that had become part of the character's visual signature by the later seasons. What most viewers didn't know was that Arthur wore clip-on earrings throughout the series, rather than pierced ones. The earrings themselves were often so oversized that the costume department made the practical decision to offer clip-ons rather than subject the actress to the weight of heavy pierced styles. Arthur herself had no objection to the compromise. The earrings became part of the costume's character in their own right, and it would be difficult today to imagine Dorothy without them. This particular detail tends to surprise people because the earrings always looked so deliberately chosen and so firmly in place, which they were, just in a different way than most people assumed.
When I go, put me in a steel sack and leave me on the curb next to the cans.
Detail 20. Sophia was originally meant to be a guest character. Before Sophia Petrillo became the irreplaceable fourth member of the household, she was never intended to be a permanent fixture of the show at all. When The Golden Girls was being developed, there was a fifth character, Coco, a gay housekeeper and cook played by Charles Levin, who appeared in the pilot episode. The plan was to keep the household focused on Dorothy, Rose, and Blanche, with Coco filling a supporting role. Estelle Getty was brought in initially as a guest character. Sophia. But her delivery of one-liners during the pilot was so well received that it changed the calculation entirely. When the pilot ran 5 minutes too long and cuts had to be made, Coco's scenes bore the brunt of the editing. Getty's Sophia survived intact, Coco was quietly phased out, and by the time the regular series began, Sophia had become a full main cast member.
Wouldn't give us his name.
Our Cecilia never squeals, never.
Did you offer him money?
Detail 19. Elaine Stritch auditioned for Dorothy. Today it is almost impossible to imagine anyone other than B. Arthur playing Dorothy's Bornak. The role seems written specifically for Arthur's particular combination of wit, world weariness, and precise comic timing. But the part was originally offered to someone else entirely. Elaine Stritch, the stage actress best known to later audiences for playing Jack Donaghy's mother on 30 Rock, auditioned for Dorothy and was the producer's first choice. Her audition, however, did not go as hoped. Stritch reportedly ad-libbed during the reading in a way that did not align with what the writers had in mind, and the part ultimately went to Arthur. Stritch later spoke openly about the audition and the outcome. Arthur went on to win an Emmy for the role in 1987, the first of the cast to do so for the show.
Dorothy, that's your picture.
Oh, no. Oh, look, they put...
Detail 18. The roles were originally reversed for Arthur and McClanahan. The casting history of the Golden Girls has one more twist that most viewers never knew about. Before B. Arthur was cast as Dorothy and Rue McClanahan as Blanche, the producers had actually envisioned the two actresses in each other's roles. McClanahan was initially considered for Dorothy and Arthur for Blanche, a pairing that would have created an entirely different dynamic on screen. The switch happened in part because both actresses had previously played characters similar to those original assignments in other shows. McClanahan had played a warm, man-friendly character in Mama's Family, and Arthur had played the acerbic lead in Maude. The producers ultimately decided to flip the casting so neither actress would simply be repeating what she had already done elsewhere. The result, as it turned out, was exactly right.
Lord, I'd love to get a facelift by 8 o'clock.
Blanche, who is Harry?
Detail 17. The first table read felt immediate. When 4 actors are assembled for the first time to read through a new script together, there is usually a period of adjustment. Lines that don't land, timing that doesn't click, a general sense of finding one another. That did not happen at the first table read for the Golden Girls. Betty White later described the experience as unlike any first reading she had ever been part of. The cast sat down, someone read a line, someone else responded, and something clicked almost immediately. White recalled that she and her castmates kept looking at each other across the table because the chemistry was present from the very first exchange. She said she still got goosebumps thinking about it years later. What the show looked like on screen in its best moments, that easiness, that sense of 4 women who had known each other forever, was apparently already there at the table before a single episode had been filmed.
To the Reader's Digest. Now let's get out of here.
Must be Michael.
Detail 16. Sophia's wicker purse was found at a prop store. The wicker purse that Sophia carried throughout the series became as recognizable as any prop in the show. So much so that it became the solution to a real production problem in later seasons. As Estelle Getty's difficulty remembering her lines increased, she began writing her dialogue on small pieces of paper and slipping them into the purse, which she could glance into during scenes. The purse thus went from being a character detail to being a practical tool for the actress who carried it. But where did it come from originally? Getty herself found it while shopping for props in Los Angeles during her audition preparation. She brought it to the audition as part of Sophia's look, and the production kept it. The purse was Getty's own contribution to Sophia's visual identity, chosen by the actress before she was even officially cast in the role.
Come on, think about it.
I don't care who it is. I mean, it could be the King of England. I don't care.
No, England doesn't.
Detail 15. The Secruo, Sick and Tired episodes were based on Susan Harris's real life. The Golden Girls was created by writer Susan Harris, who also created Soap and Benson. Harris brought a great deal of her own life experience to the show's material, but nowhere more directly than in the two-part season 5 episode titled Sick and Tired. In those episodes, Dorothy is diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome after a long and frustrating journey through the medical system, during which doctors repeatedly dismiss her symptoms or attribute them to anxiety. Harris had been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome herself and channeled her own experiences, including the medical dismissal and the difficulty of being taken seriously, directly into Dorothy's storyline. The episodes were praised for their honest treatment of a condition that was, at the time, frequently misunderstood or minimized by the medical community.
I don't know what to do. I haven't been with a man.
Detail 14. The Queen Mother loved the show and personally requested a performance. When The Golden Girls was at the height of its popularity, it had an admirer an ocean away. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, was a devoted viewer of the series, and her affection for the show was serious enough that she wrote personally to the 4 actresses, asking them to perform live for her. They obliged, appearing at the Royal Variety Performance in London in 1988, where they recreated scenes from the show's kitchen for the Queen Mother and the assembled audience. The performance was edited slightly for the occasion, but not entirely. Sophia's famously risque response to a question about widowhood was left in, and the then 88-year-old Queen Mother was reportedly seen laughing in the royal box.
Trying to figure out a way to plant a bug in their house.
Shut up, Bobby. Come on, it's not their job.
I know we're not getting Zip on the phone. They're too smart.
Detail 13. George Clooney appeared before he was famous. In 1987, a young and largely unknown actor named George Clooney appeared in the season 2 episode To Catch a Neighbor, playing a detective named Bobby Hopkins who goes undercover at the girl's house while investigating jewel thieves next door. Clooney was 26 years old and nearly a decade away from the role in ER that would make him a household name. He later looked back on the experience with considerable warmth, describing B. Arthur as the funniest person he had ever worked with and calling Betty White a godsend. He noted that the women on set could say things on network television that no younger cast could have gotten away with, and that the whole atmosphere crackled with an energy he had rarely encountered before. Most viewers watching that episode in 1987 had no particular reason to notice the young detective sharing the screen with the girls, and yet the episode remains one of the most discussed in the show's entire catalog, largely because of who that young detective turned out to be. Detail 12. Quentin Tarantino is in the background of a Season 4 episode. In the Season 4 episode Sophia's Wedding Part 1, which aired in 1988, Sophia marries the widower of an old friend, and the ceremony is disrupted when Rose accidentally sends invitations to a group of Elvis impersonators instead of to the actual guests. If you look carefully at the rows of Elvis impersonators assembled at the reception, you can spot a young Quentin Tarantino among them. Tarantino was in his early 20s at the time, unknown as either an actor or a filmmaker, and working whatever parts he could find. He later revealed in a 2020 interview on The Tonight Show that the paycheck he received from the episode helped him fund the early pre-production work on his directorial debut, Reservoir Dogs. One of the most influential films of the 1990s, was partially financed by a background appearance on The Golden Girls.
Flash, 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 flash.
Detail 11. Betty White did not eat on camera. The cheesecake scenes at the kitchen table are among the most beloved recurring moments in the entire run of the show, and for good reason. They carried the emotional weight of every major conversation the characters had. But not everyone at that table was actually eating. Betty White did not consume food on camera. She would take a piece of cheesecake, hold it, perhaps bring it toward her mouth, but she did not eat it during filming. Rue McClanahan, on the other hand, was reportedly happy to go to town on whatever was placed in front of her if there was cheesecake involved. As for Bea Arthur, it didn't matter either way. She genuinely disliked cheesecake and had no interest in eating it regardless of whether the cameras were rolling.
I'm always here, Sophia. I work. You call me at lunchtime. Sophia, go take a look.
Detail 10. Estelle Getty got a facelift between seasons 1 and 2. Estelle Getty underwent a facelift between the first and second seasons of The Golden Girls, a fact that created immediate concern for the show's makeup team. The entire premise of Getty's role required her to look considerably older than she actually was, a transformation that the department achieved through a carefully developed combination of makeup, wigs, and costuming. A facelift, a procedure designed to make someone look younger, was the last thing the team needed in the middle of that process. The makeup artists who had spent the first season developing Sophia's aged appearance had to adjust their approach for the second season to compensate. The adjustment was made, the work continued, and viewers watching at home had no reason to suspect anything had changed between seasons.
For inviting your friend without asking you, so you hired this guy to come over and teach me a lesson.
Detail 9. The show earned 68 Emmy nominations across its run. Over the course of 7 seasons, The Golden Girls accumulated 68 Emmy nominations and won 11 of them. Every one of the 4 lead actresses won a Primetime Emmy Award for her work on the show, a feat that had never been accomplished by the entire lead cast of a sitcom before and has very rarely been matched since. Betty White won for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series in 1986. Rue McClanahan won the same award in 1987. Bea Arthur won it in 1988. Estelle Getty won for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series in 1988, the same year as Arthur. Getty was billed as a supporting actress throughout the series, which made her eligible in a separate category, a distinction that allowed 2 cast members to win in the same year without competing directly against each other. The show also won for Outstanding Comedy Series, that a program centered on 4 women over 50, a demographic television had largely ignored. Produced that level of recognition across the board was not a small thing at the time.
We've been rehearsing for 3 days. Why are you making a scene now? Well, that was the first time we rehearsed the end.
Detail 8. The Bette Midler connection to the theme song. Before Cynthia Fee's version of Thank You for Being a Friend became the opening of every episode, the producers had their sights on a different song altogether. They approached the publishing company that held the rights to Bette Midler's song Friends and inquired about licensing it as the show's theme. The asking price was too high for the production budget, and the idea was dropped. Someone on the production team then remembered Andrew Gould's 1978 recording, found it to be a natural fit for the show's tone, and secured the rights at a manageable cost. Fee then came in and recorded the version audiences would come to know. The entire session, the version that has now been heard billions of times across television reruns, streaming platforms, and cultural references, took well under an hour to complete.
Nobody calls me names. Come on, let's go. I'll let you have the first.
Detail 7. The show was set in Miami, but felt like nowhere else on television. The decision to set the Golden Girls in Miami, Florida was a deliberate one, and it shaped the look and feel of the series in ways that went beyond palm trees in the background. Costume designer Judy Evans Steele leaned into bright colors and tropical prints to reflect the setting, creating wardrobes for Dorothy, Rose, and Blanche that were far removed from what audiences expected to see on women their age. Sophia was the one exception. Her wardrobe was more conservative, reflecting her Sicilian background and her age. The overall visual warmth of the show, its colors, its open spaces, its lanai, was a direct product of the Miami setting and distinguished it immediately from the grayer, more interior-focused sitcoms of the same era. That warmth was not accidental. It was built into every costume and every set choice from the beginning.
I got tested too, so I know what you're going through.
Well, what did you do?
Well, I just had the test.
Detail 6. The show addressed the AIDS crisis in its 3rd season. In 1990, during its 5th season, the Golden Girls aired an episode called 72 Hours, in which Rose discovers she may have been exposed to HIV through a blood transfusion. The episode treated the subject with a directness and compassion that was unusual for network television at the time, when many programs avoided the topic entirely. The show returned to LGBTQ+ themes repeatedly across its 7 seasons, including a season 6 episode in which Blanche's brother Clayton celebrates a commitment ceremony with his male partner, something writer Mark Cherry later described as one of the first or second times a same-sex commitment had been depicted on American television. The show's willingness to engage with these subjects, week after week, was not accidental.
Tommy Lunt?
Detail 5. B. Arthur left the show, not the network. When the Golden Girls ended after 7 seasons in 1992, the conventional assumption was that the show had simply run its course. The reality was more specific. B. Arthur decided she wanted to leave, feeling that the material was no longer meeting the standard of the show's earlier seasons. She made the decision to exit before something she cared about deeply turned into something lesser. The remaining 3 cast members, Betty White, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty, were willing to continue. According to accounts from those involved, the network had approached all 4 actresses about renewing their contracts, and 3 of them agreed. When Arthur said no, the show ended. The Golden Palace, a spin-off featuring the remaining 3, ran for 1 season the following year before being canceled.
On Hay Day, that's the day we St. Olafians celebrate hay.
Detail 4. The herring war scene was nearly cut. During the filming of an episode in which Rose tells a long, meandering story about a herring war back in St. Olaf, something unexpected happened on set. Rue McClanahan and B. Arthur broke character and began laughing and couldn't stop. The scene spiraled into extended, unscripted laughter that had nothing to do with the script and everything to do with the absurdity of the moment. The production considered cutting the scene entirely rather than including what had become a display of the cast losing control. They kept it instead, deciding that what it showed, 4 genuinely funny women cracking each other up, was more valuable than a clean take. It became one of the more memorable moments in the show's run precisely because it was unplanned.
I was the one who knew she wasn't feeling well, yet I insisted she go to that old reunion. How can I be so self-centered? I couldn't even hear.
Detail 3. The show's finale drew 27.2 million viewers. The series finale of The Golden Girls, which aired on May 9th, 1992, was watched by approximately 27.2 million people. In the final episode, Dorothy marries Lucas Hollingsworth, played by Leslie Nielsen, and moves away, leaving Blanche, Rose, and Sophia behind at the house on Richmond Street. The farewell scene between Dorothy and the other three women was one of the most watched moments in the show's entire run. Nielsen's casting as Dorothy's husband in the finale brought a touch of the absurdist comedy the show had always done well. The choice of the actor famous for Airplane and the Naked Gun films to play the man who finally wins Dorothy's heart was in keeping with the show's sense of humor about itself, even at the very end.
Yes?
Thank God, I thought I was having another stroke.
Detail 2, the show was filming before the pilot even aired. Such was the confidence NBC had in the Golden Girls. Before it premiered, that the network had already ordered a full season before audiences had seen a single episode. The pilot aired on September 14, 1985, and the show immediately became a hit, finishing its first season as one of the top-rated programs on television. But the production was already well underway by the time that first episode reached living rooms. That early confidence proved entirely warranted. The show finished 6 of its 7 seasons in the Nielsen Top 10, and it won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series at the end of its very first season. For a show about 4 older women that many in the industry quietly doubted, it made its case immediately and loudly.
Basement.
Detail 1. All 4 lead actresses won Emmy Awards for the same show. Television history has no shortage of great ensemble casts, but the achievement at the center of the Golden Girls remains genuinely rare. Betty White, Bea Arthur, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty all won Primetime Emmy Awards for playing Dorothy, Rose, Blanche, and Sophia. Each actress took home the award for a different season, and each win was for her individual performance, not a shared honor. That a single sitcom produced 4 separate Emmy-winning performances from its lead cast across different years is a fact that underlines what the show was doing week after week. The writing was sharp, the timing was precise, and the 4 women trusted one another completely. None of that was hidden. All of it was right there on screen, every Saturday night for 7 years. 7 seasons, 180 episodes, and a kitchen table that became the most comforting address in American television. The Golden Girls was a show that rewarded attention. The details were always there, sitting quietly in the background, whether you noticed them or not. The more carefully you look, the more you find. If you enjoyed this one, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps the channel more than you know. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below telling us which Golden Girl was your favorite. We read everyone.